So again, welcome and thank you so much for coming out tonight, this Thursday evening, for our Idea Slam webinar. Hopefully this will provide some really great, unique, fresh fundraising ideas that you can use in your plans. And this all of these ideas will be very malleable. You'll be able to adjust them and switch them around to make them work best for you, for your group, for your team, for your trip. So get a pad and a paper or pencil pen, so you can take some notes so that you can review the list of fundraising ideas that we go through and then adapt them to fit in your plans. So just before we dive into our webinar, I just want to go over a couple of housekeeping tips. Just the first one here is, so once you're logged into the webinar, if you're not able to hear, you may not have called in to the webinar with your computer and turned on your speakers. So this is just a couple of tips and tricks that will make sure that you've logged in and you can hear all of the great fundraising ideas that we'll be talking about today. So if you're all hearing me now, you'll all be, hopefully you'll all be logged in properly, which is great. So point number 2, if you do have a question throughout the webinar, please go ahead and type that into the chat function along the top, and I'll address all of the questions towards the end of the webinar. There's also a Q&A function, and you can also put your questions into the Q&A box, and I'll be happy to answer them at the end of the webinar from there as well. If you do have part of your fundraising team or your group or your parents around, feel free to invite them. It might be something great for them to hear as well. So if there are fundraising ideas that might be engaging for them or something that they might think of adapting to fit you, it's great to have another set of eyes and ears around, just to kind of keep the creativity fresh. The last piece is, if you do get kicked out of the webinar, not to worry. This is a question that we oftentimes get. If your internet connection drops or if you do get kicked out, just please sign back in using the same login instructions. And I will mention our internet here has actually been in and out today. So if by chance the webinar does pause, I'm going to be doing the same thing, and I'll just be logging back in, and we'll be able to pick up where we've left off. So just a pre-warning, if your internet drops or if my internet drops, we'll be able to pick up where we left off and log right back in. Okay, so if everybody's ready, just want to highlight today that the focus of this webinar is we're really going to start picking out and highlighting some spring fundraisers. Now, if you're looking outside, if you're anywhere near where we are in Toronto, if you're looking outside, it doesn't really look like spring out there. It sure doesn't feel like it. I actually saw on the news today that we're in Toronto, we're expecting another, and they called it a polar vortex. So that means that, we're going to get at least a day or two more of snow before we really get to jump into spring. It's really, really unfortunate, but this isn't to say that spring isn't just around the corner, and a lot of these spring fundraising ideas you can use in your plans as well, whether it's now or it's in a couple of weeks when the weather gets a little bit nicer. So if you come to any of my webinars or if you've talked to me before, you've heard about my fundraising buckets, or sometimes I call them fundraising cookie jars. I talk about these fundraising buckets a lot when I paint the picture of a really, really thorough fundraising plan. Sometimes I call them fundraising cookie jars because I like to suggest that fundraisers have their hand in multiple different fundraising cookie jars at the same time. I don't know if it's a saying that I've heard before, but that idea of having your hand in the cookie jar, I try to, and this is not a fundraising scientific term, something I made up, but these fundraising buckets or fundraising cookie jars are going to be really helpful in helping you maximize your fundraising. So let me explain to you what I mean by fundraising buckets or cookie jars and why I suggest having your hand in a bunch of different cookie jars at the same time. So our first fundraising bucket would be our sponsorships and partnerships. We're going to go into this a little bit more in detail, but I definitely talked about this a lot in previous webinars, and if you've ever talked about fundraising plan with me on the phone, I really think sponsorships and partnerships is a great starting off point. Now you may have already written or have been given a fundraising reference letter. Now, a fundraising reference letter is something that you can use when you're approaching businesses or anybody really, potential donors for a sponsorship or a partnership. This works really well when you're, approaching those community associations. We'll talk a little bit more about those in the next slide. But having a sponsorship, having a fundraising reference letter will help you with your sponsorships and partnerships, and that's a really great fundraising bucket to start off with. The second fundraising bucket is online fundraising. And I think online fundraising is a really great initiative to do. Once you've started your online fundraising page, keeping it running doesn't take a whole lot of work. So if you've already got an online fundraising page set up, you're going to want to keep your hand in that fundraising bucket and really send out the link to your page through social media. You're going to want to send emails with the link to your page. And if you have a Me2We online fundraising page, you're going to want to send those personal recorded videos to each member of your potential fundraising network, or so people who you think might be interested in supporting you. So that's the second fundraising bucket, online fundraising. The third fundraising bucket is selling an item. Now, there's lots of different potential avenues for selling an item to raise funds for your trip. We're going to go through a few different ideas and examples of ways that different fundraisers have sold an item to raise money for their trip. If you've got your hand in this fundraising bucket, well, at the same time as online fundraising and at the same time as distributing some sponsorship letters, some reference letters to, get some business partnerships, that's really going to be helpful. Now, the fourth fundraising bucket or fundraising cookie jar are the events and activities. Now, this is what a lot of people think when they do start out thinking about fundraising. They think all fundraising has to be a big event or, a huge activity. Now, these are very, very effective fundraisers. You're definitely going to want to spread out your fundraising and have your hand in all four of these fundraising cookie jars at the same time in order to maximize your fundraising. So, for example, a really, really strong fundraising plan will be doing all of these things at the same time. So they're going to have a fundraising reference letter that they've written or they've been given to by Me2We, and they're going to be sending that out to different businesses, different community associations, and they're going to be using that reference letter and really taking advantage of sponsorships. At the same time, they're going to be using their online fundraising page. They're going to be sending the link out to everybody they can think of. At the same time, they may be selling an item to raise money for their trip, and we'll go over a couple of examples later as well. And at the same time, they may be planning one or two fundraising events or activities, like a yoga class or a bottle drive, and we're going to go through a bunch of these as well. So when if you've ever heard a webinar, you've probably heard this many times, and it's probably enough to drive you over the wall. But you've heard about these fundraising cookie jars, but I think the best fundraising plan is going to be pulling from each of these cookie jars at the same time. So we're going to go through all of these now together, and keep in mind throughout this webinar we're going to go over at least 30 different ideas and ways that you can fundraise. So we're going to go through them a little bit quickly, so make some notes, and remember, all of these ideas that we do go through, they tend to be adapted to fit your personal situation, the people you have around you, what they're interested in, what kind of venues, spaces, neat things that you have available to you. So that's why taking notes is really helpful, so you can then decide how you're going to adapt those fundraising plans to fit you. Okay, so the first order of business is to really talk about some real simple Me2We internal opportunities here. And the first one is the referral program. And you've probably heard about this before, so I won't talk too much about it, but it's really neat. If you do have some friends who might be interested in traveling, who are like-minded like you, and they want to take a Me2We trip or go to meet Take Action Camp, if they do sign up and deposit for a trip, you get $100 free and clear towards your trip, and they get $50. So this is kind of how you're spreading the word, and you're really bringing others into this movement. And it's obviously it's an amazing experience for them. They're going to have their eyes open just like you did, but it's also going to help you financially support your trip. So that's the referral program. There's a link to the referral program through your portal, and if you do have somebody in mind that you think might be interested in signing up for a trip, you might want to get them on board. So now we're going to talk a little bit about those sponsorships and partnerships. And again, if you don't have a fundraising reference letter and you are stuck on how to write one, let us know. Give me a shout. Send me an email. Ask your trip coordinator, and we're more than happy to put one together for you or give you some tips and tricks. I always think it's best to use the fundraising reference letter from me to we, but I would also suggest using a fundraising reference letter that you've kind of written for yourself that really speaks to your passions and your core reasons for why you're doing what you're doing. So something that tells your story and shares your journey with your potential donors. So I would suggest maybe having two pieces, the one written from me to me and the one written from you that really touches on your personal journey. So you don't have to use a fundraising reference letter for AEROPLAN miles and RBC points, but did you know that me to we can actually redeem AEROPLAN miles and RBC points towards dollars for your trip? It's really awesome. You actually just go to the AEROPLAN miles website or the RBC points website where somebody would normally redeem those points, and they can actually convert those to me to we dollars, which is super cool. And then you can use those to apply to your trip. So if you know somebody who collects AEROPLAN miles or RBC points and they're willing to donate those points to you, they can convert those to me to we dollars and actually put them towards your trip. If you have any questions about that, please feel free to get in touch with me or your trip coordinator for any details. But it's a really simple process where your donors can go and redeem their points just like they would normally on the AEROPLAN or RBC points website. And this is a great conversation starter as well. If you're asking somebody for whether or not they collect AEROPLAN miles, it's a really soft introduction to a conversation about donations and fundraising. If you're basically asking them, do they collect these AEROPLAN miles? Yes, great. Or would you be willing to maybe donate them to support my volunteer trip abroad? Or it's a great way for you to start a conversation, especially if you're working with a group, or maybe you've got some friends whose parents collected these AEROPLAN miles and they're not using them. It's a great way to actually redeem those for some dollars towards your trip. Now, when we're talking about sponsorships and partnerships, one of the most effective sponsorship groups have been these community associations that you see on your screen here. So a Lions Club, a Rotary Club, an Optimist Club, these are all community associations that exist in all kinds of different communities across the globe. Each small town will actually have their own chapter of a Rotary Club, a Lions Club, or an Optimist Club, likely have all three of them. I'm from a small town just a little bit north of Toronto, and that small town actually has one of each of them. So you can find that information. I just found that information for my local chapter by Googling Newmarket Rotary Club. And when I found the website, I was able to determine who the right contact person at each of these chapters was. So this would be the group president, I believe, or the board of director member. And what I did for my first volunteer trip is I actually sent my reference letter and my personal letter to a Lions Club in my local community and offered them a presentation or a workshop about my experience when I came back in exchange for a donation. So the community association that I worked with was able to provide me with some financial support. And when I came back from my trip, I followed through with my workshop and I showed some photos and I presented all of the things that I had learned on my trip and my action plan to the entire membership. So that was something that was really helpful for me, and it was a great way for me to frame a conversation where I was asking for money, but it was also offering something in return. And that's always a little bit more comfortable for fundraisers rather than just asking for, money or support. This is a way for you to offer kind of that kickback in return, which would be that workshop or Q&A session after you come back from your trip. So this is a great way. You can call these community associations. You can send them your letters in the mail. You can email them. You can even drop in to their head office or their head location and do a face-to-face meeting. These are all different options, whatever you're most comfortable with. You can try a variety of different avenues or strategies on how to approach these different associations. But I think the best conversations or the best ways to present to them what you're fundraising for is coming from the heart and really telling them your personal journey and what this means to you and explaining to them why you're so passionate about this. So that's my tips and tricks for approaching community associations and businesses for support. We'll also talk really quickly about some of the other different types of businesses that have been really helpful for fundraisers, and most of those are local businesses, smaller, local, things that you might find on your main street in your town. So your doctor, maybe your hairdresser, and my hairdresser when I went on my first trip was really lovely. She gave me a bunch of products that I could put in a wellness basket that I could sell raffle tickets for. Maybe your local restaurant or your pub can offer you the space for an event, or maybe some gift cards that you can raffle off, or maybe a financial donation. Same with a car dealership or a neighborhood coffee shop. Maybe they're small, independently run. Maybe you're in exchange for a donation, you're going to get the word out about their coffee shop or their coffee, and talk about them on social media. Give them a good review. Those are some ways that you can offer to give them a benefit for a donation. Or a yoga studio. I know I have a few fundraisers who are actually traveling to India this summer, and they're really trying to take that theme, the theme of their trip, that they're going to India, and they've approached some yoga studios for sponsorships and support, and they're really taking that theme of wellness, Zen, and them traveling to India and that kind of cultural aspect by approaching those yoga studios or trying to have a yoga or fitness class at a studio that's willing to donate their space. So thinking local is really helpful when it comes to sponsorships and partnerships. Now, we've already talked about an online fundraising page, and if you don't have one up and running, I recommend getting one going as soon as you can, whether it's a Me2We fundraising page or a GoFundMe or a Kickstarter. I know Kickstarter is a really great online fundraising platform for groups because you're able to kind of log in from different directions. So online fundraising is great, and you can then send that link so people all over the world can donate to your campaign. So maybe you have family and friends across the country. If you can send them the link to your fundraising page, they're all able to donate. They're able to donate with a credit card online, which is really easy and convenient for a lot of people. You can even make yourself a little business card that you can see on like the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, where you can put your name, the dates you're traveling, how much your trip costs, or any details you want, and then the link to your fundraising page. That way, someone can take that business card and donate online when they get back to their computer. So maybe you're, cutting someone's grass or doing someone's gardening, and you're doing that for a donation, but they don't have, any money or cash to give you. That's okay. You can give them your credit card, your fundraising business card, and they can take it inside and donate online while you're cutting the grass. So that's another neat way to use your online fundraising page. I also have a couple of fundraisers this year who are using their fundraising page to take payments for soup that they're making. So they're fundraising by making homemade soup. Really, really lovely. And then people are actually purchasing the soup by making a donation online to their page, and then the girls are delivering the soup to the person who ordered it. So it's a really unique way to use your fundraising page. So online fundraising is a great avenue to take, and it doesn't take a ton of time out of your busy schedule. Okay, so now that we've talked about sponsorships and partnerships, and we've talked about online fundraising, I want to jump into a couple of ways, or a couple of really unique ways that you can sell an item to make some money for your trip. Now, this is a really great fundraising tactic because, again, you're not simply asking for support or financial assistance. You're really providing your donors with a value piece in exchange for a donation. So, if someone's donating $20 to your campaign, and in exchange, they're getting, a really great note card collection, that's a really good deal for them. So they're getting something in return, so they don't mind supporting your campaign. Not that people would, mind supporting your campaign financially without a value piece, but this is a great way, especially for fundraisers who might be a little uncomfortable in just asking for support, or want to provide like a value piece or a thank you piece or something in exchange for a donation. So we'll go through a couple of ideas here. So our Tide, Tested and True Me to We Rafikis, which have been really, really helpful for so many fundraisers, and I really love how fundraisers are being really creative with their Rafikis and how they're selling them. So I know there's a lot of fundraisers who are really doing a lot of social media outreach and selling their Rafikis online. They've even got online order forms, and they've created really great advertising campaign about their Rafikis. So the way that you can use the Rafikis to fundraise, you actually buy the kit for $50. Now inside the kit, you'll find 10 Rafikis. And if you sell those Rafikis for $10 each, you're going to make $100 for every kit. So that's a $50 profit. So you've got a lot of people who are interested in buying these Rafikis. And hey, you can even sell them for $15 depending on where you're selling them. There's a lot of potential to make some profit on these Rafikis. So it's a really great way because they've also got a great packaging. You can track the impact on the back of each of the Rafikis, which means you can punch in the really unique number on the back of the package into the computer, and it will, or into the Me to We website, and it'll tell you exactly what you're helping support. Not only are you helping support someone's trip, you're also supporting water, education in a particular community that we work in abroad. So Me to We Rafikis are amazing. They're beautiful. They're really packaged lovely. They've got a neat little box that I just picture sitting so perfectly on, by a cash register or on a table booth or something. They're just, really, really visually appealing, and I think they sell themselves. So I mentioned before handmade card collections, and I think this is great, and this will really be nice for springtime. I know, we just went through a nice holiday, Easter. We've got Mother's Day coming up, and people love to buy cards and stuff like that, things that are handmade. Moms love that stuff. So why not take advantage of that and, put together like a little card collection, or make, handmade individual cards that people can buy for, $2, $3, depending on how fancy they are. You can sell them for $5. This could actually make a lot of money towards your fundraising. If you're selling each card for say $5 and you're crafty and you're making them yourself, that's a lot of potential profit. And again, these can be for any type of event. I would definitely do some Mother's Day, but you could do a package of cards. You could do a Mother's Day card, a thank you card. You could do a few different different themed cards inside your package. I like these, I'm thinking of you kind of cards, just like a little note cards. People in business really love note cards, especially personal handmade ones, because when they send it to a client or somebody, it has that extra personal touch. So handmade card collections are really great. You can sell them at craft sales, you can sell them at farmers markets, you can sell them online to people at school, anywhere, because people do need cards for multiple different occasions. And candygrams. Candygrams are a really, really great fundraising initiative, especially if you've got the support of your school. Now, I remember when I was in school, candygrams were sold almost every month for something different. And they could be, I know Valentine's Day was big for candygrams, Christmas is big for candygrams, but I thought, why not do like a spring candygram, you know, a spring fling type of thing? And these are really cute lollipop flower candygrams with, you know, there's a neat little space there for someone to write personal message. And if you are able to do candygrams at school, you can really sell a lot of these, depending on, you know, how much you're selling them for, how many students you have at school, and they can write a little personal message, and then you can hand deliver them. Maybe take, you know, some time at lunch and hand deliver them, or even towards the end of the day. That each person gets a nice little treat and a nice note from somebody that admires them. So candygrams are really popular, and I think that they're very positive, especially, you know, the messages are only nice messages, of course. And again, if you do have the support of school, and you can set up a little booth or a table outside the cafeteria, you can sell these really, really well, and they're very inexpensive to make. Handmade jewelry. We've got a lot of fundraisers who are very, very artistic this year, especially, and some fundraisers who are making some really, really great handmade jewelry pieces and selling them in some neat places. So some fundraisers who've actually built their own websites, and they are selling their jewelry online. They're doing a lot of social media outreach, and some fundraisers are really getting creative and finding neat locations like, you know, retail stores at a mall who would be willing to let them set up a table to sell their jewelry there. So, you know, I know there's a few really neat smaller stores or kind of, you know, retail locations that would allow you to set up a table, and it doesn't hurt to ask. So, you know, that's a great avenue if you're able to make handmade jewelry. People love these things, especially, you know, around Mother's Day. This could be a really, really great fundraising initiative. Now a t-shirt campaign. Now these are so much fun, and I've always found t-shirt campaigns to be really effective because who doesn't love t-shirts, especially ones that are really unique and they've got really neat messages on them. Now these pictures that you see on your screen here are from a t-shirt campaign from a fundraiser this year who really hit her t-shirt campaign hard, and she had these t-shirts designed. She helped design them and had them pressed. And then she took these really awesome pictures with different pieces of clothing to make them look really, really appealing. They're so cool. And now she came up with this idea, born to do more than pay bills and die, and I thought it was really smart. And then these photos, you know, are very, very engaging and very appealing. So she did really well and sold all of her t-shirts. She's actually fully funded her trip, which is really exciting, and we're all very proud of her. So these were her t-shirt designs. You could do any type of t-shirt design. You know, maybe you know somebody who has a t-shirt press, and you could take advantage of that. Or, you know, maybe you know somebody who has, you know, blank t-shirts, or, you know, who has access to t-shirts in bulk. If not, there's always a little organization called Fund the Nation. You'll see the tagline below on the screen here. If you just go to your internet browser, Google, and type in Fund the Nation, you'll find their website pretty easily. Now, they're an organization that will actually work with you to design the t-shirts. And for what you can do is you can actually design unique t-shirts for your fundraising, sell those, and make a profit for your trip. And I believe, you know, whatever profit is made is divided between, you know, Fund the Nations and yourself. So, you know, they do get a little bit of a kickback as well. But it's a really great organization. They'll actually do a lot of the work for you. And if you really think, you know, if you feel like you've got a great network who would be interested in buying these t-shirts, this can definitely work. This can certainly work for you. And, you know, the only other thing you want to keep in mind is you will need to have enough time to go through the design process and order the t-shirts and have them, you know, delivered and in enough time. But this is also something that if you're fundraising after your trip, maybe to pay back your parents or something like that, this is a great initiative to start up maybe when you get home, or, you know, if you have some time before your final trip payment. But I do think t-shirts are really great. They obviously sell themselves. And if you if you think you have a network who'd be interested in buying t-shirts, again, they will fly off the shelves and really help you fund your trip. Now we'll talk about some neat crafty ideas. Craft sales are really popular all throughout the year, but craft sales and farmers markets are all the rage in the springtime. I know there's a really amazing farmers market that starts around mid-April right near my house, and it's one of my favorite things to do every week because they've got such neat, handmade, one-of-a-kind things that you'd never see anywhere else. So there's something that's jumping out into your mind that you've seen or you want to create or build, that's a great place to do it. These are a couple of ideas that I just put on the screen here. These little neat flower pens, and these are really popular when I was in school. I used to use these a lot. Like the flower pens and stuff like that. But you could bring it back, and they're really easy to make, and you could get some really nice, springtime type flowers, and really take advantage of people's crafty, colorful type love of spring, and do the pens that you see on the left. The middle, this is a simple mason jar type project. Superheroes are all so popular right now. I think Batman versus Superman just came out in theaters about a week ago, so why not take advantage of the superhero themed piggy bank and make these mason jars into piggy banks. Really, like a really simple, crafty idea, and people will love this because they're really into this theme right now. On the right, we've got these really cute little clay flower pots, and I thought it would be really neat to decorate them or paint them or put different types of jewels, rocks, or whatever on the outside of them. And you can even fill them with a really neat plant and sell them that way, or you can just sell them just as is. I have a garden on my balcony through the summer, and this is something that I'm always looking for flower pots and little terracotta type planters like this. So you could decorate them and make them all artisan, and then sell them at a farmer's market, with or without a plant inside. And there's a little cactus or succulent in this one on the middle there. You could fill it with anything you want. And again, the possibilities are endless as far as crafts go. Think of what you have access to, in terms of materials. What type of things are you good at, do you love to make, and really take advantage of that. Now, natural homemade products. One of my colleagues here, she is all about the essential oils and all about natural products. So she was telling me last week how she actually had a party at her house where she had a bunch of friends over where they all made a bunch of natural home organic products, like shampoo and home spray and deodorant and soap and bath bombs. So people are really interested in the organic route, things like, health food stores, organic markets, farmers markets. Those places are very interested in these type of handmade products that are natural and organic. You can get these recipes on Pinterest or online and make these chemical-free hand soaps or whatnot. And I actually asked her yesterday or the day before if it was really hard to make these type of things, and she said no, it's not that difficult. The soaps and the bath bombs require a little bit of heat, so you'll just need to make sure that you're safe and we've got enough space to be like stirring a pot of soap, because then you'll have to put it into different shapes to harden it. But these again, I've never tried this, but my colleague said it's quite simple and people love this type of thing. So why not, take a stab at it and see if there are farmers markets or organic health food stores that might be interested in selling them on your behalf. Great. So we talked a little bit about how a few ideas that you could use to sell an item in order to raise some funds. Now, again, I want to mention that these aren't the only things that you can sell to make some money. There are a number of different items that you can, creatively make yourself, or you can, purchase and sell. But you want to think of what people around you are going to be interested in buying. So that's where you kind of want to start. So one of the fundraiser who did the T-shirt campaign, she just started university, so she knew she had a lot of students that would be interested on her campus to buy a T-shirt that had a really strong message. So she went the T-shirt route, and it worked really well. Maybe another fundraiser who has access to really neat aromatherapy beads, so she was able to make a really awesome bracelet. So what do you have access to that's unique? What do your people around you want to buy, and that's what you're going to want to jump on. Now we're going to talk a little bit about a few different fundraising activities or events or initiatives, things that you can do to kickstart your fundraising or to really fill in those gaps. Now, a lot of these, I want to start by saying they do require a little bit more work. So fundraising events, you have to be prepared to do some planning and to do some work. So you're going to have to be organized. You're going to have some help, some volunteers to help support you, like a fundraising team. So, not to say that you can't do any of these events on your own, but it really helps to have a team, and you're going to want to make sure you're advertising properly, because the worst thing that could happen is you planning a fundraising event, a big event, and then it doesn't end up producing any income for you. That's really disappointing and really deflating. So you want to make sure you're prepared, and you not only do you not make no money, but you don't want to lose money on a fundraising event by spending a bunch of money to get it all set up, and then the people who said that they were going to come don't actually come. So a great idea with fundraising events is selling tickets and getting that income right off the bat, and then people can decide later if they want to come or not to the event. But collecting those donations of that money right up front is really helpful for events. That's just a little tip and trick that I've learned along the way, and to make sure that you're organized and ready to take on some work. So that being said, we're going to talk a little bit about, we're going to start with a little bit more simple fundraising events or activities that you can do or you can use in your plans. Now, one of my favorite and go-to fundraising ideas, and I will talk about this idea in every single webinar because I think it's just so great, and it costs $0, is a bottle drive. Now, you can find out where you'll be bringing the bottles in your community. It could be a recycling receptacle or a beer store or wherever it is. And then you're going to want to distribute some flyers in your neighborhood with some information about your campaign. Now, this one, I just put an example here. This is I just found this online from a roller derby group who was fundraising with a bottle drive. And they did this really neat design here in the shape of a bottle that really talks about what they're fundraising for. So they're, telling them that they're fundraising for, this roller derby group. They're saying they're collecting bottles and cans. They've got a time for when they're collecting. They've got the ask on there that says, save your empties, we want them. It's got what they're supporting, the North County Lumberjills, and where, and then the date. So it's got all the details on there. And if you distribute these flyers maybe on a Thursday and then schedule pick up for maybe the Sunday, it gives people enough time to kind of get organized and provide you all of their empty cans and bottles. If you can ask a friend or family member with a car to drive you around to pick up all the bottles, it's even better. A truck is the best because the more bottles, the better. And if you can do a bottle drive maybe every weekend or every other weekend in a different neighborhood, there's a lot of potential income that you can pull in from a bottle drive. And the best thing of all is a bottle drive costs you no money to do. Even a bake sale costs you money. You have to buy the ingredients to make make the sweets and stuff, but a bottle drive is absolutely free. And if you're being really smart about it, you can really take advantage of a bottle drive. You may know somebody who works at a bar or a restaurant, a hostess or something that might be able to talk to their restaurant manager and have the restaurant donate all the bottles. So there's lots of ways that you can really maximize a bottle drive I know a fundraiser last year who really hit their bottle drive hard. I think they got a flatbed truck, they filled it with bottles, and they were able to take a huge chunk off of their fundraising goal with just, one bottle drive. So just with a bottle drive, you're going to distribute your flyers, say, on a Thursday. People are going to donate their empties. Now, empty bottles, empty cans can be returned to a recycling depot for money. It's pretty easy. It's a beer store or a recycling depot, but yeah, they will actually give you, I think it's 35 cents a bottle. It depends on the province and it depends on the state. But each bottle will add up, and it'll help you earn a profit towards your trip. So hopefully that helps. Great. Now I picked a jelly bean count for this webinar because I think it looks super spring-like, but also because I ate way too many jelly beans this Easter long weekend. Big jelly bean fan, and I think a jelly bean count is a really neat, fun idea. So you can fill a mason jar. Now mason jars are so easy to find, and jelly beans are relatively inexpensive. Really colorful jelly beans. You can fill up these mason jars, and you can either have them on display, either at work or at school, or maybe one of your parents can take it to work with them. And what you would have is you would have a somewhere where somebody can put in how many jelly beans they think is in the jar, and they would drop that into a box. And then whoever gets closest wins the jelly beans. So in order to make a bet or make a guess of how many jelly beans are in the jar, someone would have to donate $2. So you're collecting, $2 every time someone makes a bet. Now, if maybe you are able to have a jelly bean count jar on a counter at 5 or 6 different stores, or maybe at school, or at at the office at school, or you have 6 different jars all over the place. Maybe you have them for 2 weeks, and each of them makes $50. That's a solid amount of money that you can be putting towards your tip. I also love the idea that one of the fundraisers just suggested. You can even have your Rafiki set up on these with a box for guesses, and have people guess how many beads are on the Rafiki. You may have to spend the time counting those beads so you know the answer to that question, because each Rafiki will have a different number of beads. But super cool idea, really neat way to incorporate me-to-we and these Rafikis and into this kind of fundraising counting idea. So I just had, I thought it would be a great idea to, really maximize by having 5 or 6 different jars in different locations and collecting donations for guesses all over the place. So you're fundraising in multiple different places. So you're in 3 or 4 places at the same time. So that's a really great fundraiser, and it costs relatively not a lot, and it's not going to take a ton of time. Car washing. Now this is really great. Not the most glamorous job in the world, but it's great, especially in the spring. The weather is truly going to get a lot better, I promise. And when the weather starts getting nicer, people want their cars clean. They want to drive around, without that filthy winter stain all over their car. So setting up a space to car wash is really, really going to be great. Maybe I actually, we have some fundraisers who are in California who are blessed with the beautiful weather all year round. So you'd be taking advantage of a car wash at all times. People love this type of hand done car wash because it's actually better for cars rather than going through the automatic car washes. And it's fun, if you get a nice day, you start getting really excited, get some signs, get some, people who up the street, you can just get have a lot of fun with it and do, car wash. Maybe you could do it at, a dealership that, you have a relationship with. Maybe you live in a cul-de-sac or at a dead-end street, or something you want to do your car wash there. Think of ways that you can advertise and really, put up some colorful flyers all around the neighborhood. Car wash is a great thing, and it's really fun. And now that the weather is getting nice, I think it actually would be great to get out there and really take advantage of the people who want their cars free of all the winter salt and grime. Great. So teaching and coaching. Now this is something that you're really going to want to think of your unique talents. I mean, that's always a great place to start with fundraising anyway. But thinking what do you love and what are you good at? Now I put dog walking. I have a dog. I don't always love walking him because he's stubborn. He doesn't actually like to walk very much. But you could dog walk, and especially now that the weather is getting nicer, it's actually quite pleasant to go out on a nice weekend and walk some dogs, and they're quite entertaining if anything. So why not go do some dog walking, or language lessons. Maybe you speak Spanish. You want to do some Spanish lessons, or maybe you're musical and you can do some guitar or piano lessons, or sports batting practice. When I fundraised for my first trip, I did power skating because I'm a hockey player. So I did power skating with the different teams in my division. And I was able to get in touch with the convener of the league, and they set me up with the different kind of power skating gigs. You could do cooking class or math tutoring or babysitting. Always a great way to put some extra dollars towards your fundraising. Or if you really love kids, why don't you have a service to do kids' birthday parties or something? Maybe magic or puppet show or something like that. People can hire you to hold the kids' birthday party or entertainment. But really, you're really going to want to think of what are your unique talents or the people around you, and how can you take advantage of that to make some money. So what are you really good at? What are you going to teach? What are you going to coach? For me, it was hockey, so I did power skating. For some people, it's music, so they want to do singing lessons or acting lessons or comedy lessons or something. What are you good at, and what can people learn from you? You can also advertise online. You can put those little flyers, where people can, with your email address, so people can reach out and book sessions like that. Now a juice bar. How much fun is this? I am a big juice lover. I don't like to start my day without a nice green juice. I'm one of those people. I have a nice fancy blender at home, and I make my juice. And before I had my fancy blender, I used to spend an arm and a leg on this green juice. It's so inexpensive to make now that I have a blender. And if you do have a blender, take advantage of that and make some juice and put them in these really cute little jars with some labels. Or maybe you can borrow a blender, rent a good one. But people love these juices, and again, they will spend a fortune. There's a restaurant down the street. It's called Fresh, and they make really nice hand-pressed juices and blended juices like this, similar to what you see on the screen, like celery, apple, cucumber, ginger, lemon, very inexpensive items. And they sell these juices for a fortune, and people buy them. So why not hold your own juice bar? Maybe at school, maybe it's at work, or at hockey practice or somewhere. But sell these juices are great pick-me-up. They make people feel so good, and they're tasty. So yeah, why not? You can even reach out to your local grocer or health food store and see if they can sell the juice at a booth there. I think that would be really handy. People shopping on a Saturday at the grocery store, and they're tired, or at the mall, and they need a pick-me-up. Why not be that pick-me-up? Pick-me-up via juice. Now, a seed and flower bulb sale is really great. I think I already mentioned that I usually do a patio garden in the summer, and I know a lot of people like to do little backyard gardens or patio gardens or even indoor gardens. You can really take advantage of this time of year by having a seed and flower bulb sale. You can do this in a variety of different ways. The ways that I thought of, either putting together little packages of seeds, because you can buy them in bulk, and I always buy my seeds every year, and I never use them all. Somebody making 50 seeds probably only needs about 10 to 15, but they give you like 30 seeds in a package, so You can split them up and put them in, smaller packages, and with a little bow that says Happy Spring, and you can sell them at farmers markets or all kinds of different places. Or you can actually germinate the seeds and plant them indoors in like these little trays, like the top picture there. And what they do is they start growing indoors. You can keep them indoors for probably about a month, and then people will plant their the seeds that they've started indoors. They'll then take them outside after they've grown for about a month, so they've got a head start. So you can be that person to head start all of these seeds. And then, maybe people forgot to germinate their seeds inside, and they want to, to buy these plants that have already kind of got a head start, and you can sell them that way. You can also purchase flower bulbs, and you can get them at a garden center, and they're really easy to plant as well for people who have outdoor gardens, like backyard gardens. And you can sell those bulbs. You can sell them online. You can take orders. A lot of people would be interested in doing like buying seeds or flower bulbs around this time of year, especially in the next couple of weeks. It's actually right now it's the time where people are going to be picking what kind of plants they want to start growing outside. In a couple of weeks, I'm probably going to start germinating my seeds indoors and starting them indoors, so that by end of April or May, hopefully, knock on wood, we don't have too terrible weather, but by May, I'm going to want to start planting my half-started seeds outdoors. So that's a really neat and unique fundraising idea for this time of year that you can really start getting started now. A yoga or fitness class, one of my favorite fundraising ideas, because I love yoga, love fitness, and yoga classes. Again, we mentioned some fundraisers who are traveling to India. It's a really neat themed idea that you can really talk about. You can really tie your trip into a potential yoga fundraiser. You can maybe reach out to your local gym or studio, yoga studio, could be a art gallery, any kind of place that you may have access to. And see if they would let you host a yoga or fitness class. You even charge at least $20 and get fit while you fundraise. So I know, again, I spend an arm and a leg on yoga. Yoga is very expensive, depending on the studio. But you can, why not have people, fundraise and, do yoga at the same time. So you can find a space. You can even have a session in the park when it gets nicer. I love yoga in the park. And then you can find, maybe an instructor who would like to donate their time, who's willing to help, or maybe somebody who is a budding yoga instructor who wants to practice. This is a really great fundraising idea, and I know I worked with some fundraisers last year who did a Zumba class, and they were actually able to fundraise over $2,000 with a really great Zumba class, and they had some raffle tickets at the event as well, and they sold some items. I think I'm not sure if it was t-shirts, but they really had a great turnout for their Zumba class. So like a fitness idea or yoga class would be really great. And there's not a lot of decorating to do this type of event. It's pretty straightforward, and it doesn't require a ton of time to get set up, but could be really effective. And a tea party. Now that the weather is getting nicer, it just starts making me think of really colorful, festive things. And I don't know why a tea party makes me, think of spring, but maybe something like a teddy bear picnic. I know teddy bear picnic is, just maybe kind of an outdoor event for kids to come with their teddy bears and have, really adult, mature sandwiches with the crust cut off and tea, and really have this neat, classy affair. They dress up, and you can have your own type of tea party. But I just thought it would be really nice. Get a space, get a little team to help, send invitations or sell tickets. I can just picture little cucumber and cream cheese sandwiches with the crust cut off, and with like little soft music playing in the background, like some classical music with some decorations and some sweets and really nice silly flags and colorful things. I just think that would be a really neat idea. And all of these little details will be kind of how you put this event over the top. So I just pictured it being, you know, outside on little picnic tables with pretty lace tablecloths. You can have some maybe entertainment or games or, you know, carnival type things. But this idea would be really neat. A tea party would be quite lovely. Or a film screening or mini We Day. This is another great event idea. Again, this does require a little bit of thought to put in. You're going to want to secure a space, and you're going to need to think of the logistics of if you're having a film screening, how you're going to play the film, and, you know, whether it's a projector, maybe you've got a big screen TV, or you can have a mini We Day where you invite some inspirational speakers and get some fun entertainment, like some local talent. Again, screening a documentary is great. Maybe the documentary is the same theme as your trip. So maybe, you know, if you're traveling to Kenya, maybe the documentary is about the Masai Mara warriors or something like that. You're going to want to advertise and invite as many people as you can, really get the word out. This is something that you're really going to want to focus on if you're going to have a film screening or mini We Day is attendance. You're going to want to make sure you've got enough people to make it a successful event. So again, you can charge for tickets or collect donations at the door, but charging for tickets really helps eliminate the chance that all of people commit to attending and then actually don't end up coming, and you spent all this time and energy on an event that is poorly attended. So you're going to want to make sure that you confirm the people who are coming or collect donations for the price or for tickets. Spring flowers. Now this can sort of fit into the category of a fundraising event or an activity, but it can also be selling an item. Now this can be done in a few different ways. You know, the way that you can, I thought of originally doing spring flowers kind of like Valentine's Day or like Easter flowers, you know, how people will, again, pay an arm and a leg for those bundles of flowers as they're on their way to visit their family and friends on Easter long weekend. You know, but you could be just, you know, somebody walking by seeing a nice, you know, tulips or some really pretty spring flowers and want to bring them home for their husband or wife, or, you know, something to just spruce up their living room. I know a lot of fundraisers who have actually worked with florists in their area. Maybe the florist is willing to donate the flowers or some of the flowers, or maybe there are some flowers that have that are a little bit imperfect, or maybe have, you know, one of the leaves are missing or something like that. This can be, you can also get these flowers donated or for a discount, and then when you're selling them, you're making a huge profit. So again, this is something that's quite simple, and it could be really, really helpful and beneficial, especially if you're getting the flowers for relatively inexpensive. A sports tournament. Now, on my first for my first volunteer opportunity, I did a dodgeball tournament. I went to University of Toronto, and this is one of the posters that they actually continued. So we did a dodgeball tournament to fundraise for our trip as a group, and they've actually continued to do this dodgeball tournament every year since we left. So it was so popular that this dodgeball tournament is now used as a fundraiser for a variety of different things. You could do a dodgeball tournament, you could do a baseball tournament, golf tournament, like 30 golf tournaments are very, very popular. Same with soccer, or, you know, a free throw or shooting kind of competition with tournaments where, you know, the winner gets a prize, but each team has to pay to enter. So let me, you know, just explain how the dodgeball tournament that I ran went. We had each team had 5 members, so each dodgeball team had 5 people. And each team had to pay $50 to enter the tournament. So with their entry, they got 3 games, they got water and snacks, and a prize for the winner, like the winning team got a prize. So if every team that registered for the dodgeball tournament gave us $50, you know, to play, that was a lot of money. With that $50, what we needed to spend, we had the dodgeball tournament on campus in the gym. And what we did is we just got a bunch of water and some healthy snacks. And we also made trophies and medals out of little metal wrenches. So I don't know if you've seen the movie Dodgeball, but there's a scene where they say if you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. So we made our medals into these little wrenches. It was really cute on a little necklace or a lanyard. So we were really creative. And we made the poster ourselves and then got it printed. So we advertised that way. You could do all kinds of different sports tournaments. And now that it's getting nice, you could really use outdoor space, like a field or soccer field for a soccer type tournament, or a baseball field. You know, a lot of communities will actually let you use these spaces, maybe for free, and you don't have to rent them. So back on the crafty train, I saw some bird feeders getting put out the other day. I remember when I was young, and we made these handmade bird feeders with peanut butter and seeds. You can do them in a bunch of different shapes. But I thought this would be a really neat fundraising idea, really inexpensive and really simple to make. So you just get some structures. I think the ones at the bottom are a bunch of peanut butter and seeds kind of stuck together on top of like a wooden house looking type thing. Again, really easy to make, and you can sell these at farmers markets. You can sell them online to friends and family, to your neighbors. You can go door to door and sell them, but these are really great birds, and these, and they're really attractive to kind of have around the yard. So you can always do some type of bird feeder fundraiser. And back on the sport side of things, or the more active side of things, a run or a walkathon is a really neat way to fundraise. Now, why do you think all kinds of charities and organizations do a run or a walkathon to raise money? It's because it's very effective and it's fun. So you can organize a run or a walkathon yourself to raise money for your trip. I just wanted to make sure if you do take on a run or walkathon, it is going to require a little bit of planning and some work. I know some fundraisers who've planned a run or a walkathon in the past, and they were very, very organized, and that's how they were able to be successful. So to start, you might want to consider meeting with a local running club. These are some running clubs like the Running Room, or because each of them are individually owned, some of them might be, interested in partnering with you or helping support you, or, helping sell tickets. But that would be a great place to start. Then you're going to want to choose a route and set a date. It might be worthwhile to get in touch with, your local community group, or like the rec center, to see if they have any advice for previous runner walkathons. And I think each community would be different depending on what kind of route you choose. You're going to really need to have a team, because you're going to need to set up the route and maybe have flags or map out the route. Maybe you're also going to want to consider getting some sponsors or advertise at the event. So maybe you've got local businesses that are want to donate T-shirts or something for all of the registrants. So once you've kind of got all of the logistics in place, all of those details in place, how you make money from a runner or walkathon is you register the runners, and each runner who registers pays a registration fee. Also, on top of that, each runner who's registered has the ability to fundraise on top of the registration amount by getting sponsors for themselves. So again, there's a lot of work that goes into a runner or walkathon, but now that the weather is getting nicer, if this is something that you think you can take on or you want to take on, now's the time to start getting started. And please do reach out. Again, we've had some fundraisers who've been really successful with a runner or walkathon. So if you're thinking of getting started with one yourself, let me know, and I'm more than happy to connect you with a fundraiser who's done this type of event before, because it's always great to have you know, some experience behind you, or hear some ways that other fundraisers have learned from this type of event. Okay, great. So I know, you know, we just talked about lots and lots of ideas, actually over 30. So I wanted to pause here. I'm sure you're all tired of hearing my voice. And I wanted to pause and see if there's anybody here who wanted to share something that, you know, maybe hasn't been brought up, something that they've tried, something that they've wanted to try. If they are, you know, if anybody would like to share an idea, feel free to let me know that you're interested in the chat box, and I can unmute you and you can share with the entire group. If you're not comfortable sharing with the entire group verbally, you're more than welcome to type your suggestions into the chat box, and I can read them out on your behalf and share them with the rest of the group. So again, I'll just leave it here for a couple of minutes to see if anybody has anything that they want to share. If not, no problem. I know we've talked a lot about a lot of ideas tonight. So I'll just leave it for a couple of minutes and then we will move on to the questions. Okay, so I think everybody might be fundraising idea'd out. So I'm just going to move on. If anybody has any ideas that they want to bounce off of me, or if they want, you know, if they have any questions, please let me know. I'd also recommend adding me to Facebook. I oftentimes add different fundraising ideas there, and I post links to fundraising webinars on Facebook as well. You can also connect with fellow fundraisers and hear other ideas that are working really well for other people. And again, I know in the, you know, for example, in the Facebook fundraising group, a lot of fundraisers are sharing their T-shirt designs, or, you know, things that are working well, so you can connect with them and ask for advice or tips or tricks. You know, again, and I'm always happy to help any way that I can. So please, you know, if there are any other, like any next steps, or if you need any more ideas, please let me know. I'm happy to help, and as is everybody here. I will open it up for questions. I'll leave it on the contact me page here. This is my contact details: email, Facebook, Twitter, and I'm going to leave the webinar here on pause after for about 5–10 minutes, just to see if anybody has any questions. And if you do, please feel free to type them in the chat box, and I'm more than happy to answer at this time. Or, yeah, definitely send me an email. You can connect that way, or we can schedule a call. I'm always happy, again, to help any way that I can. I really appreciate everybody coming out tonight and spending an hour with me on this Thursday evening. Again, hope these ideas were helpful and you're able to inject them into your plans and, you know, keep that momentum going, because you're all doing so well. The end is so, you know, the end is in sight. We are so close to getting there, and hopefully this will give you that kind of kickstart to just, like, you know, fill in those gaps and get to where we need to be. So again, thank you so much for coming. I'm just going to pause the webinar, but I'm going to be here to answer any questions if anybody does have them. All right. So thanks again, and have a wonderful evening, and happy fundraising. Good night.